My ex-partner opened a restaurant next door with my recipes, the exact same recipes, the same dishes, the same secret ingredients I'd spent 30 years perfecting. He took everything, my recipes, my suppliers, my customers, and he opened right across the street. I'm Rosa Martinez, 58 years old. I've been cooking since I was 8. My abuela taught me, her abuela taught her. For generations of recipes, family secrets, techniques passed down through decades. And Carlos Mendoza, my ex-business partner, stole all of it. What happened next proved that family recipes aren't just food, they're intellectual property. And when you steal them, you're stealing someone's life. If you've ever had someone steal your work, if you've ever watched someone profit from your ideas, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, this story is for you. Hit that like button right now and subscribe, because what I discovered about Carlos's theft, what I did to expose him, proved that recipes are protected. And thieves get caught. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and if you've experienced theft of your work or ideas. I want to know how common this is. The day Carlos opened his restaurant, I was devastated, angry, betrayed. We'd been partners for 5 years. Started the restaurant together, built it from nothing. It was called Rosa's Kitchen, my name, my recipes, my dream, and Carlos had been my right hand. He handled the business side, I handled the cooking. We were a team, or so I thought. Then one day, Carlos came to me. Rosa, he said, I want to do something different. I want to open my own place. I want to be the owner, not just a partner. I understood. I told him, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how to make this work. Maybe you can buy me out. Maybe we can expand. Maybe we can open a second location together. But Carlos had other plans. He didn't want to buy me out. He didn't want to expand. He wanted to steal everything. He spent 3 months learning every recipe, every technique, every secret. He watched me cook, took notes, asked questions, pretended to be interested in learning. But really, he was stealing. Then one day, he quit. Walked out, said he was done, said he wanted to pursue other opportunities. I was hurt, but I understood. People move on. I hired a new manager, trained them, kept running the restaurant. Life went on. 2 weeks later, I saw the sign. Carlos's Kitchen, right across the street. Same block, same neighborhood, same everything. I walked over, looked at the menu, and my heart broke. Every single dish was mine. Chiles rellenos, mole negro, Tamales, Enchiladas verdes, Carne asada, Pozole. Every recipe, every technique, every secret, stolen. I walked in. Carlos was there. Rosa, he said, surprised. What are you doing here? I'm looking at my recipes. I said, these are my recipes. These are my family's recipes. You stole them. I didn't steal anything, Carlos said. These are common Mexican dishes. Anyone can make them, not like this, I said. These are specific recipes, specific techniques, specific ingredients. You learned them from me. You stole them. Carlos smiled. Prove it, he said. I can't prove it, I said. But you know what you did. And everyone who eats here will taste the difference. Because you don't have the soul, you don't have the love, you don't have the generations of family knowledge. You just have the ingredients, and that's not enough. I left, went back to my restaurant, and cried, because I knew he was right about one thing. I couldn't prove it, not legally, not in a way that would hold up in court. Recipes aren't protected like patents. They're not copyrighted like books. They're just ... recipes. And anyone can make them. But I also knew something else. I knew how to fight back, and I was going to destroy him. The first week, Carlos's restaurant was packed. People were curious. New restaurant, same neighborhood, same type of food. They went to try it, and they were disappointed. Because Carlos's food wasn't the same. It looked the same, it had the same ingredients, but it tasted different. It was missing something, the soul, the love, the generations of technique. My customers came back to me. They said, Rosa, we tried Carlos's place. It's not the same. Your food is better. I know, I said, because I have the recipes. He just has the ingredients, but I also knew something. Carlos was going to undercut my prices. He was going to try to steal my customers through cheaper food. And I needed to be ready. I called my suppliers, the ones I'd been using for 30 years. I told them what happened. I told them Carlos had stolen my recipes. I told them he was opening a competing restaurant, and I asked them a question. If he comes to you asking for the same ingredients, will you tell me? They said yes, because they knew me, they trusted me. They'd been working with me for decades. Within a week, Carlos came to them, asking for the same suppliers, asking for the same ingredients, asking for the same quality. My suppliers told me immediately, and they also told me something else. They told me Carlos was asking for cheaper versions, cheaper tomatoes, cheaper peppers, cheaper everything. He was cutting corners, trying to maximize profit, and that was his mistake. Because my customers didn't just come for the recipes, they came for the quality. They came for the authenticity, they came for the love. And Carlos was serving them cheap ingredients with stolen recipes. That's not a business, that's a scam. I decided to do something bold. I decided to make my recipes even better. I went to my abuela's old cookbook, the one she'd written by hand, the one with notes and variations, the one with stories about each dish. And I started experimenting. I started adding new techniques, new presentations, new flavors. But keeping the soul, keeping the authenticity, keeping the love, I created new dishes. Variations on the classics, things Carlos didn't know about, things he couldn't steal because I hadn't taught him. Within a month, my restaurant was packed. People were coming specifically for the new dishes, specifically for the evolution, specifically for the innovation. And Carlos's restaurant was emptying because people realized Rosa's food was better. Rosa's food was authentic. Rosa's food had soul. Carlos's food was a copy. A cheap copy, a soulless copy. I watched his restaurant struggle, and I felt something. Not satisfaction, not yet, but determination. Because I knew what I had to do next. I had to expose him. Not just as a bad cook, but as a thief. And I had to do it publicly, so everyone would know. So no one would ever trust him again, so he'd lose everything. Just like he'd tried to make me lose everything. I called a food blogger, someone with a big following, someone who covered restaurants in the city. I told her my story. I showed her my abuela's cookbook. I showed her the recipes. I showed her Carlos's menu. I showed her the similarities. She was shocked. This is theft, she said. This is intellectual property theft. I want to do a story, she said. I want to expose this. I said yes. She came to my restaurant, interviewed me, took photos of my abuela's cookbook, took photos of my dishes. Then she went to Carlos's restaurant, ordered the same dishes, took photos. Compared them side by side, the resemblance was undeniable. Same recipes, same techniques, same everything. She published the story on her blog. Local chef steals recipes from family restaurant, with photos, with comparisons, with my testimony. With Carlos's menu, the story went viral. Within 24 hours, it had 50,000 views. Within 48 hours, 200,000. Within a week, 500,000 people were outraged. How could he steal recipes? How could he open a competing restaurant with stolen recipes? How could he profit from someone else's family legacy? The comments were brutal. People were calling for boycotts. People were demanding he close. People were saying he should be sued. And then something happened. A lawyer reached out to me. She specialized in intellectual property. She said, I read the story. I want to help you. I said, can you actually do anything? Recipes aren't protected like patents. She said, no, but there are other angles. Trade secrets, unfair competition, breach of fiduciary duty. We can argue that as a business partner, he had a duty to keep your recipes confidential. We can argue that he used his position to steal trade secrets. We can argue that he's engaged in unfair competition. It won't be easy, but we have a case. I hired her. We filed a lawsuit against Carlos for theft of trade secrets, for breach of fiduciary duty, for unfair competition, for damages. Carlos's response was to deny everything. He said the recipes were common. He said he developed them independently. He said I was just trying to destroy his business because I was jealous. But the evidence was overwhelming. My abuela's cookbook, dated, with my handwriting, with notes about when I created each recipe, my restaurant's records, showing when each dish was added to the menu, Carlos's restaurant records, showing when he added the same dishes. The timeline was clear. He'd learned the recipes from me, then opened a competing restaurant with them. That's not coincidence, that's theft. The case went to trial. The judge reviewed the evidence, looked at the cookbook, looked at the timelines, looked at the menus, and ruled in my favor. Carlos had stolen my trade secrets. He had breached his fiduciary duty as a business partner. He had engaged in unfair competition. He was ordered to pay me $250,000 in damages, plus attorney fees. Plus, he was ordered to remove all of my recipes from his menu. He had to change his entire menu, create new dishes, or close the restaurant. He tried to appeal, but the appeal was denied. The ruling stood. Carlos had to pay, and he had to stop using my recipes. Carlos couldn't afford to pay the judgment. He didn't have $250,000. So he had to sell his restaurant, the building, the equipment, everything. It sold for $300,000. He paid me $250,000 and kept $50,000 for himself. His restaurant closed. The space sat empty for months. And I felt something, not satisfaction, not yet, but something else, vindication, because I'd won. I'd exposed him, I'd protected my recipes. I'd proven that theft has consequences. But I also realized something. I didn't want to just win. I wanted to build something bigger, something better, something that would last. So I made a decision. I used the $250,000 to expand my restaurant. I bought the space next door, the space where Carlos's restaurant had been. And I opened a second location, Rosa's Kitchen, expanded, with a bigger kitchen, with more seating, with a cooking school, where I could teach people my recipes, where I could pass down my family's legacy, not just to my children, but to anyone who wanted to learn. Within a year, my expanded restaurant was the most popular in the neighborhood. People came from across the city, across the state, to eat my food, to take my cooking classes, to learn my family's recipes. I hired my daughter, my son, my nieces, my nephews, all of them trained in my recipes, all of them carrying on the legacy. Within 3 years, I had 3 locations, all of them successful, all of them packed, all of them teaching people about authentic Mexican cuisine. Within 5 years, I had 10 locations, across the city, across the state, all of them bearing my name, all of them serving my recipes, all of them teaching my family's legacy. I was making millions, not just from the restaurants, but from the cooking school, from the cookbook I published, from the cooking show I started, from the line of sauces and spices I created, all based on my family's recipes, all protected by trademark and copyright, all generating revenue. At 63, I was approached by a major restaurant group. They wanted to buy my restaurants, wanted to franchise my concept, wanted to expand nationally. They offered me $50 million. I turned them down. Not because I didn't want the money, but because I wanted to keep control. I wanted to make sure my recipes were always authentic. I wanted to make sure my family's legacy was always honored. I wanted to make sure the soul was never lost. So I kept the restaurants, kept expanding on my own terms. At 65, I had 20 locations, all successful, all authentic, all teaching people about my family's recipes. And I was a millionaire, not because I was lucky, not because I was talented, but because I fought back, because I exposed theft, because I protected what was mine, and because I built something bigger than just a restaurant. I built a legacy. At 66, I was approached by a documentary filmmaker. She was making a film about food, theft, and intellectual property. Wanted to feature my story. I agreed. The documentary crew spent 2 weeks with me, filmed me cooking, interviewed me about what happened, showed my abuela's cookbook, showed the court documents. They also interviewed Carlos. He was working as a line cook now, making minimum wage. He admitted on camera that stealing my recipes was the biggest mistake of his life. I thought I could just take what she had, he said. I thought recipes weren't protected. I thought I could get away with it. I was wrong. She had something I didn't have. She had soul. She had authenticity. She had generations of family knowledge. I just had ingredients, and that's not enough. The documentary aired on PBS, Stolen Recipes, The Cost of Food Theft. My segment was 40 minutes. After it aired, I received over 5,000 emails. From people who'd had their recipes stolen. From chefs who'd been betrayed by partners. From small business owners who'd been copied. From people who didn't know they could fight back. One email came from a woman in another state. Rosa, she wrote, I'm a baker. My ex-partner stole my bread recipes. Opened a bakery next door. I watched your documentary. I hired a lawyer. I'm fighting back. Thank you for showing me it was possible. That one email represented change. Represented someone fighting back. Represented someone protecting their intellectual property. Imagine if that happened with 100 people. 1,000. That's the power of telling your story. At 67, I was invited to speak at a culinary conference. 5,000 chefs from around the world. I told my story, how I'd been betrayed by my partner, how he'd stolen my recipes, how I'd fought back legally, how I'd won, how I'd built something bigger, and I ended with a challenge. I said, every chef in this room has probably had someone try to steal their recipes. Every chef has probably had someone copy their dishes. Every chef has probably lost customers to someone who copied them. The question is, are you going to let them get away with it? Or are you going to fight back? Are you going to protect your intellectual property? Are you going to build something bigger? The room applauded for 5 minutes. After my speech, over 100 chefs approached me. All of them said the same thing. Thank you for showing us we can fight back. Thank you for showing us recipes are protected. Thank you for showing us we can build something bigger. At 68, I decided to write a cookbook. Not just recipes, but stories, the story of each dish, where it came from, who created it, how it evolved, why it matters. The cookbook became a bestseller. Sold over 200,000 copies, used in culinary schools. Assigned reading in chef training programs, translated into 15 languages. One culinary school made it required reading for all students. They said, if you're going to be a chef, you need to understand that recipes are intellectual property, that they need to be protected, that they represent generations of knowledge. At 69, I stepped back from day-to-day operations. Promoted my daughter to CEO of the restaurant group, my son to head chef, my nieces and nephews to management positions. I kept my role as founder and creative director, but stepped back from operations. This freed me to focus on mentorship. At 70, I'm still working. At 70, I'm still working, still fighting food theft, still helping people protect their recipes. The Rosa Martinez Foundation now operates in 12 countries. We've helped over 3,000 chefs fight recipe theft, recovered over 50 million in settlements and lawsuits, changed laws in 8 countries, but the work that makes me proudest is the mentorship. I mentor over 500 chefs, people who've had their recipes stolen, people who are scared, people who think they're done. I tell them all the same thing. Your recipes are your intellectual property. Your family legacy is worth protecting, and you can fight back. One mentee, a 60-year-old woman, was a street food vendor. Someone had copied her tamale recipe, opened a competing stand. She was devastated, ready to give up. I mentored her for 6 months, helped her document her recipes, helped her file for trade secret protection, helped her sue the competitor. Within a year, she'd won her case, recovered damages, expanded her business. She called me. Rosa, she said, I was ready to give up, ready to accept that someone had stolen from me, but you showed me I could fight back. Thank you. That's the legacy, not the restaurants, not the money, not the cookbook, but the people who fought back, who realized their recipes were valuable, who built something great. At 71, I received a call from Carlos. First time in 15 years. Rosa, he said, I heard you're stepping back. I'm stepping back from operations, I said. Not retiring, just stepping back. I wanted to call and apologize, he said, for stealing your recipes, for betraying your trust. For trying to destroy your business. I was young and stupid. I thought I could just take what you had. I thought recipes weren't protected. I was wrong. I've spent 15 years learning that lesson. And I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. I appreciate that, I said. Carlos, can I ask you something? Anything, he said. Do you understand now why I had to fight back? Do you understand that I couldn't have just let you steal from me? Do you understand that my family's legacy was worth protecting? Yes, he said. You had to protect what was yours. You had to show that theft has consequences. You had to build something bigger. And you did. You proved it spectacularly. Thank you for calling, I said. And thank you for the apology. It means something. We hung up, and I realized something. Forgiveness isn't required for closure. I still hadn't forgiven Carlos. Probably never would, but I'd moved past it. I'd taken what he did and turned it into something good, and that was enough. At 72, I was approached by a major food company. They wanted to buy my restaurant group, wanted to franchise my concept nationally, wanted to expand internationally. They offered me $150 million. I turned them down, not because I didn't want the money, but because I wanted to keep control. I wanted to make sure my recipes were always authentic. I wanted to make sure my family's legacy was always honored. I wanted to make sure the soul was never lost. So I kept the restaurants, kept expanding on my own terms, with my family, with my values, with my vision. At 73, I was invited to speak at the United Nations. The International Labour Organization was hosting a conference on intellectual property protection for small businesses. They wanted me to speak about protecting recipes and family businesses. I testified for 90 minutes, showed data from 12 countries, showed that recipe theft costs small food businesses an estimated $2 billion annually. Lost revenue, lost customers, lost innovation, lost family legacies. The UN was shocked. They'd known food theft existed, but they hadn't known the economic impact was so massive. One UN official asked, "What can we do?" 3 things, I said. First, every country should strengthen intellectual property laws for recipes and food products. Make it easier for small businesses to protect their creations. Second, every country should require food businesses to document their recipes, create a registry, prove ownership. Third, every country should create legal aid for small food businesses facing theft. Make it affordable to fight back. 6 months later, the UN passed a resolution. Global Food Intellectual Property Initiative. It incorporated all 3 recommendations. Every UN member country was encouraged to adopt similar policies. The resolution was nicknamed Rosa's Resolution by advocates. I didn't ask for that, but I accepted it, because it meant my fight against Carlos had changed policy for millions of small food businesses around the world. At 74, I decided to mentor the next generation of female chefs, started a program called Recipe Legacy. Paired experienced female chefs over 60 with younger women in their 20s and 30s. The older chefs mentored the younger chefs on traditional techniques. The younger chefs mentored the older chefs on modern technology and social media. It was a two-way exchange. Within 2 years, we'd paired over 200 women. The results were remarkable. Restaurants with these mentorship pairs had higher retention, higher innovation, higher profitability, because they combined traditional knowledge with modern marketing. At 75, I received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Culinary Association for building a successful restaurant group, for fighting food theft, for changing international policy, for helping over 3,000 chefs, for mentoring hundreds of female chefs. The ceremony was attended by 1,000 people, including Carlos. He'd become an advocate for intellectual property protection, was working with the foundation, had become an unlikely ally. He approached me after the ceremony. "Rosa," he said, "I wanted to thank you for giving me a second chance, for letting me work with the foundation, for showing me that people can change." "I didn't give you a second chance," I said. "You earned it. You admitted you were wrong, you changed. That's what matters." We hugged. And I realized something. People can change. Even people who've hurt you. Even people who've betrayed your trust. If they're willing to admit they were wrong and change, they deserve a second chance. At 76, I'm mostly retired, still on the board of the restaurant group, still leading the foundation, but not working full-time. My health is good, my mind is sharp, and I'm at peace. I'm at peace with what I've built. I'm at peace with how I've used my recipes. I'm at peace with the impact I've had. One afternoon, I was sitting in my kitchen, looking at my abuela's cookbook, the one that started everything, the one that Carlos tried to steal, the one that I protected, and I realized something. Every recipe in that book was valuable, not just because of the ingredients, but because of the story, because of the generations of knowledge, because of the love. And by protecting those recipes, I'd protected my family's legacy. I'd protected my abuela's memory. I'd protected something that would last forever. Before I tell you what happened when I turned 80, I need to ask you something. Are you still with me? Does this story matter to you? If you've had someone steal your work, if you've been betrayed by a partner, if you've watched someone profit from your ideas, hit that like button right now. It helps other people facing food theft and intellectual property theft find this story, people who need to know they can fight back. Subscribe to this channel for weekly stories of people over 50 who were pushed aside and proved their value. And drop a comment telling me, have you had your recipes or ideas stolen? Have you been betrayed by a business partner? Have you fought back? I want to hear your stories. Because the more we share, the more we protect each other. Now, back to what happened at 77. I was diagnosed with diabetes. Type 2, manageable, but serious. I had to change my diet. Had to be more careful about what I ate. Had to work with doctors and nutritionists. It was a wake-up call. I realized I wasn't invincible. I was getting older, my body was changing. And I needed to think about legacy, not just business legacy, but family legacy, so I made a decision. I decided to create a video cookbook, not just recipes, but me. Teaching the recipes, telling the stories, passing down the knowledge. So that my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren would have it forever. I spent a year filming, cooking each dish, telling the story, explaining the technique, sharing the love. The video cookbook became a sensation. Posted on YouTube, viewed over 50 million times. Used in culinary schools, shared by chefs around the world. People said, this is the most authentic cooking content I've ever seen. This is real, this is soul, this is legacy. At 78, I was approached by a major streaming service. They wanted to create a cooking show. Based on my life, based on my recipes, based on my story, I agreed. The show was called Rosa's Kitchen, A Life in Recipes. It aired for 3 seasons. Won multiple awards, reached over 100 million viewers worldwide. And it did something important. It showed the world that food is more than just ingredients. Food is culture, food is family, food is legacy, food is love. At 79, I stepped down from the foundation. Promoted a talented 55-year-old woman to executive director. Someone I'd mentored, someone who understood the mission. I kept my board seat, but stepped back from leadership. This freed me to focus on what really mattered. My family, my health, my peace of mind. At 80, I'm mostly retired. Still alive, still sharp, still engaged, but not working full-time. I spend my days cooking, teaching my grandchildren, telling stories, reflecting on my life, and I'm at peace. I'm at peace with what I've built. I'm at peace with how I've used my recipes. I'm at peace with the impact I've had. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked me, Abuela, what's the most important thing you've learned in your life? I thought about it, then answered that your recipes are your legacy, that your family's knowledge is worth protecting, that fighting back is possible, that building something bigger is possible, that love is the most important ingredient. She hugged me. And I realized something. The legacy isn't the restaurants. It's not the money, it's not the cookbook. It's the people who learned from my story, who protected their recipes, who realized their family's knowledge was valuable, who built something great, who passed down their legacy. That's the legacy, and that's enough. At 81, I was invited to speak at a culinary conference. 5,000 chefs from around the world. I walked slowly to the podium, used a cane, took a moment to catch my breath, then began. 30 years ago, I was just a woman with a family recipe. A recipe my abuela taught me. A recipe her abuela taught her. For generations of knowledge, for generations of love. I didn't think it was special. I thought it was just food. But then I opened a restaurant and people came. They came because they tasted something different. They tasted soul, they tasted authenticity, they tasted generations of knowledge. And they kept coming back. Then my partner stole my recipes. Opened a competing restaurant, tried to destroy me. And I had a choice. I could accept it. Could let him win, could give up, but I didn't. I fought back, I exposed him, I protected my intellectual property. I built something bigger, and I won. But that's not the important part of the story. The important part is what I learned. I learned that your recipes are your intellectual property. They're worth protecting. I learned that family knowledge is valuable. It's worth preserving. I learned that fighting back is possible. That you don't have to accept theft, that you can build something bigger. I learned that food is more than just ingredients. Food is culture, food is family, food is legacy, food is love. And I learned that the most important thing isn't winning, it's passing down your legacy. Because every person I've taught, every person I've mentored, every person who's learned my recipes, they're carrying forward my family's legacy. They're carrying forward my abuela's legacy. They're carrying forward generations of knowledge. And that's the real victory. The students applauded for 5 minutes. After my speech, over 100 chefs approached me. All of them said the same thing. Thank you for showing us that our recipes are valuable. Thank you for showing us that we can fight back. Thank you for showing us that we can pass down our legacy. That's the legacy. Not the restaurants, not the money, not the cookbook, but the people who learned from my story, who understood that their recipes were valuable, who realized they could fight back, who decided to pass down their legacy. At 82, I was contacted by a major film studio. They wanted to make a movie about my life, not a documentary. A feature film, with actors, with a big budget. With theatrical release, I agreed. The movie was called Rosa. It told my story. From my childhood learning to cook from my abuela, to opening my first restaurant, to being betrayed by Carlos, to fighting back, to building something bigger, to becoming a millionaire, to changing international policy. The movie was a critical and commercial success, won multiple awards, reached over 500 million people worldwide, and it did something important. It showed the world that small business owners matter, that intellectual property matters, that family legacy matters, that fighting back is possible. At 83, I received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for building a successful restaurant group, for fighting food theft, for changing international policy, for helping over 3,000 chefs, for mentoring hundreds of female chefs, for inspiring millions through my story. The ceremony was attended by 2,000 people, including my entire family, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, all of them carrying forward my legacy, all of them cooking my recipes, all of them telling my story. I looked at them, and I realized something. The legacy isn't just me, it's all of them. It's everyone who's learned my recipes. It's everyone who's been inspired by my story. It's everyone who's decided to protect their intellectual property. It's everyone who's decided to fight back. That's the real legacy, and that's everything. At 84, I was diagnosed with heart disease. Serious, but manageable with medication and lifestyle changes. I had to slow down, had to be more careful, had to think about my mortality. And I realized something. I didn't have much time left. But I also realized something else. I'd already done what I came to do. I'd protected my family's legacy. I'd fought back against theft. I'd built something bigger. I'd changed international policy. I'd mentored thousands of people. I'd inspired millions. And I'd passed down my recipes to my family. So I made a decision. I decided to focus on what really mattered. My family, my health, my peace of mind. I stepped back from everything. From the restaurants, from the foundation, from public appearances, from everything except my family. I spent my days cooking with my grandchildren, teaching them my recipes, telling them stories about my abuela, about my journey, about the importance of protecting what's yours, about the importance of fighting back, about the importance of passing down your legacy. My grandchildren listened, and they learned. And they promised to carry forward my recipes, to carry forward my family's legacy, to carry forward my abuela's legacy, to carry forward generations of knowledge. At 85, I was approached by a major university. They wanted to create the Rosa Martinez Chair in Food Intellectual Property, a tenured position dedicated to researching food theft, to training the next generation of food entrepreneurs, to fighting for intellectual property protection. I accepted, but I didn't take the position myself. Instead, I endowed it, funded it for 50 years, and let them hire someone younger, someone who could dedicate their career to this work. At 86, I'm mostly retired. Still alive, still sharp, still engaged, but not working, just living, just being with my family, just cooking, just telling stories, and I'm at peace. I'm at peace with what I've built. I'm at peace with how I've used my recipes. I'm at peace with the impact I've had. One afternoon, my great-granddaughter asked me, "Bisabula, why do you always tell us about your recipes? Why do you always tell us about fighting back?" I thought about it, then answered, "Because your recipes are your power. Your family's knowledge is your treasure, and fighting back is your right." She hugged me, and I realized something. The legacy isn't just recipes. It's values. It's the understanding that what you create is worth protecting. It's the understanding that you can fight back. It's the understanding that family legacy matters. It's the understanding that love is the most important ingredient. That's the legacy, and that's everything. At 87, I was invited to speak at my great-granddaughter's school, a culinary school. She was graduating, and they wanted me to speak to the class. I walked slowly to the podium. Used to walker now, my voice was weaker, but my message was clear. 35 at 87, I was invited to speak at my great-granddaughter's school, a culinary school. She was graduating, and they wanted me to speak to the class. I walked slowly to the podium. Used to walker now, my voice was weaker, but my message was clear. 35 years ago, I was just a woman with a family recipe. A recipe my abuela taught me, a recipe her abuela taught her. For generations of knowledge, for generations of love. I didn't think it was special. I thought it was just food, but then my partner stole my recipes. And I had to fight back, and I won. But more importantly, I learned something. I learned that what you create is worth protecting. I learned that your family's knowledge is your treasure. I learned that fighting back is possible. I learned that you can build something bigger. I learned that love is the most important ingredient. And I learned that the most important thing isn't winning, it's passing down your legacy. So I'm telling you this, every recipe you learn, every technique you master, every dish you create, it's yours. It's your intellectual property. It's your family's legacy. Protect it, document it. Share it with people you trust, and if someone steals it, fight back. Because your recipes are worth fighting for. The students applauded for 10 minutes. After my speech, over 50 students approached me. All of them said the same thing. Thank you for showing us that our recipes matter. Thank you for showing us that we can fight back. Thank you for showing us that we can build something bigger. My great-granddaughter hugged me. "Bisabula," she said, "I'm going to protect my recipes. I'm going to pass down our family's legacy. I'm going to fight back if anyone tries to steal from me." "I know you will," I said, "because you're my great-granddaughter. And you have my blood, you have my strength, you have my determination." At 88, I was contacted by a major food magazine. They wanted to do a feature on me, the woman who fought back, Rosa Martinez's legacy. I agreed. They interviewed me for hours. Asked about my journey, about my recipes, about my fight with Carlos, about my foundation, about my impact. The feature was published, and it went viral. Over 10 million people read it. Over 1 million shared it. Over 500,000 commented. All of them saying the same thing. Thank you for showing us that we can fight back. Thank you for showing us that our recipes matter. Thank you for showing us that we can build something bigger. At 89, I was approached by a major publishing house. They wanted to publish my autobiography. Not just recipes, but my full story, from childhood to now. I agreed. I spent 6 months working with a ghostwriter, telling my story, sharing my recipes, sharing my wisdom. The autobiography was published, and it became a bestseller, sold over 500,000 copies. Used in schools, used in business programs, used by entrepreneurs, used by people facing theft and betrayal. One reader wrote to me, "Rosa, I'm a small business owner. Someone stole my product design. I read your autobiography. I hired a lawyer. I'm fighting back. Thank you for showing me it was possible." That one email represented change, represented someone fighting back, represented someone protecting their intellectual property. Imagine if that happened with 1,000 people. 10,000, that's the power of telling your story. At 90, I'm still alive, still sharp, still engaged, but I'm preparing. I've written my final letter. To my family, to the foundation, to the world. And I've made one final decision. I'm creating the Rosa Martinez Legacy Archive, a digital collection of every recipe, every story, every lesson, every impact, so that future generations can learn from it, so that no one ever has to face food theft alone, so that family legacy continues to be protected. At 91, the world changed. The Rosa Martinez Legacy Archive launched. It contained over 5,000 recipes, stories from people who'd fought food theft, data on the economic impact, laws from 8 countries, mentorship programs, research papers, case studies. It was the definitive resource. And it was free. Anyone could access it. Anyone could learn from it. Anyone could fight back. Within 6 months, it had been downloaded over 20 million times. Used in culinary schools, used in law schools, used in government policy, used by people facing food theft. One user wrote to me, "I'm a street food vendor. Someone stole my recipe. I found your archive. Read the stories, learned the laws. Hired an attorney, and I'm fighting back. Thank you for giving me the tools." At 92, I was contacted by the president. She wanted to name a national holiday after me. Rosa Martinez Day, a day to celebrate small business owners, to fight intellectual property theft, to value family legacy. I turned it down, not because I didn't want it, because holidays are for people who've done more, people who've sacrificed more, people who've changed the world more. I said, name it after all the small business owners who fought theft, not just me. They did. They called it Small Business Protection Day, celebrated on the first Monday in May, a federal holiday. Schools closed, businesses held intellectual property training, governments reviewed theft protection policies, and people celebrated small business owners. At 93, my family gathered around me. They knew it was time. I looked at them. All of them, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and I said, remember this. Your recipes are your power. Your family's knowledge is your treasure. Fighting back is your right. Don't let anyone steal from you. Because you're worth more than that, they cried, and I closed my eyes, knowing I'd done what I came to do, knowing my legacy was secure, knowing family recipes would continue to be protected. At 94, the world mourned, but also celebrated. My funeral was attended by 5,000 people, chefs, business owners, people I'd helped, people I'd mentored, people whose lives I'd changed. The president spoke. Rosa Martinez showed us that small business owners matter. She showed us that intellectual property matters. She showed us that family legacy matters. She showed us that fighting back is possible. She proved it, and she made the world believe it. At 95, the Rosa Martinez Legacy Archive was updated, with my final stories, my final lessons, my final messages, so that future generations could learn from them, so that no one ever has to face food theft alone, so that family legacy continues to be protected. At 96, the world changed again. A young woman, inspired by my story, started a food business. It was acquired for $50 million. She donated half to the Rosa Martinez Foundation and said, Rosa Martinez showed me that small business owners matter. She showed me that I could fight back. She showed me that my recipes were valuable. She showed me that I could build something bigger. Thank you, Rosa. And that's the legacy. Not the restaurants, not the money, not the cookbook, but the people who fought back, who realized their recipes were valuable, who built something great, who changed the world, who protected their family's legacy. That's the legacy, and that's everything. At 97, the world celebrated the 10th anniversary of Small Business Protection Day. It had become a global holiday. Observed in 100 countries, businesses held intellectual property training. Schools taught about the economic cost of theft, governments reviewed policies. And people shared stories of fighting back, stories of building something great, stories of protecting family legacy. I watched the celebrations on television, from heaven, surrounded by my abuela, surrounded by my ancestors, and I smiled. Because that was the legacy, not the money, not the restaurants, not the laws, but the change, the cultural change, the global change, the change that family legacy brings. At 98, my great-granddaughter opened her own restaurant. She called it Rosa's Legacy. She used my recipes. She told my stories. She passed down my family's knowledge. And she became successful, not because she was lucky, not because she was talented, but because she understood something. She understood that recipes are power. She understood that family legacy matters. She understood that fighting back is possible. She understood that love is the most important ingredient. At 99, the Rosa Martinez Foundation had helped over 10,000 small business owners fight intellectual property theft, recovered over $500 million in settlements and lawsuits, changed laws in 30 countries, but more importantly, they changed culture. Small business owners started realizing that their intellectual property was valuable, that their family legacy was worth protecting, that they could fight back. At 100, the world celebrated Rosa Martinez's centennial, even though I'd passed away years ago. They celebrated my life, my legacy, my impact. They celebrated the restaurants. They celebrated the foundation. They celebrated the archive. They celebrated the lives I'd changed. And they celebrated the future, because my legacy wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who came after, everyone who learned from my story, everyone who protected their recipes, everyone who fought back, everyone who passed down their family's legacy. That's the real legacy, and that's everything. 101 years after I was born, my great-great-granddaughter opened a restaurant. She called it Rosa's Kitchen, Generation 5. She used my recipes. She told my stories. She passed down my family's knowledge. And she became successful, not because she was lucky, not because she was talented, but because she understood something. She understood that recipes are power. She understood that family legacy matters. She understood that fighting back is possible. She understood that love is the most important ingredient, and she understood something else. She understood that her great-great-grandmother had fought back, had protected her family's legacy, had built something bigger, had changed the world. And she was going to do the same. 102 years after I was born, the world changed again. A young entrepreneur, inspired by my story, started a food business. It was acquired for $500 million. She donated half to the Rosa Martinez Foundation and said, "Rosa Martinez showed me that small business owners matter. She showed me that I could fight back. She showed me that my recipes were valuable. She showed me that I could build something bigger. She showed me that family legacy is the most important thing. Thank you, Rosa." And that's the legacy. Not the restaurants, not the money, not the cookbook, but the people who fought back, who realized their recipes were valuable, who built something great, who changed the world, who protected their family's legacy. That's the legacy, and that's everything. 103 years after I was born, my great-great-granddaughter was invited to speak at a culinary conference. 5,000 chefs from around the world. She walked to the podium and began. My great-great-grandmother was Rosa Martinez. She was a woman with a family recipe, a recipe her abuela taught her, a recipe her abuela's abuela taught her, for generations of knowledge, for generations of love. And when her partners stole her recipes, she fought back. She won, and she built something bigger. She changed the world, and she passed down her legacy to me. And I'm passing it down to you. Because that's what we do. We protect our recipes. We protect our family's legacy. We fight back. We build something bigger. We change the world, and we pass it down. The students uploaded for 15 minutes, and I realized something. The legacy wasn't just me. It was all of them. It was everyone who learned my recipes. It was everyone who was inspired by my story. It was everyone who decided to protect their intellectual property. It was everyone who decided to fight back. That's the real legacy, and that's everything. Thank you for watching Rosa's story. If it inspired you, if you've had your recipes or ideas stolen, if you've been betrayed by a business partner, I need you to do something right now. First, smash that like button. It tells YouTube that stories of fighting food theft matter. Stories of small business owners who refuse to be victims. Stories that show recipes are power. It helps this reach entrepreneurs facing theft right now. People who need to know they can fight back. Second, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Every week, we share stories of people over 50 who were targeted and fought back to prove their value. Stories of courage, justice, and turning betrayal into opportunity. Third, share this video. Send it to small business owners. Post it in entrepreneur communities. Help spread the message that intellectual property matters, that family legacy matters, that fighting back is possible. And finally, tell me your story in the comments. Have you had your recipes or ideas stolen? Have you been betrayed by a business partner? Have you fought back? I want to hear from you. Because every story shared helps someone else realize they can fight back. Every story shared shows others they're not alone. Remember Rosa's story. She was 58 when her partner stole her recipes. When he opened a competing restaurant next door. When he tried to destroy her business, she could have accepted it, could have given up, could have let him win. But Rosa fought back. She exposed him. She won a lawsuit. She recovered damages. She built something bigger. She opened 20 restaurants. She became a millionaire. She changed international policy. She mentored thousands of chefs. She proved that being betrayed at 58 wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her greatest work. If Rosa could fight at 58, devastated and betrayed, you can too. Whatever you're facing, whatever someone has stolen, whatever business partner has betrayed you, you have recipes, you have knowledge, you have power. Use it. Build something great. Prove them wrong. Because your recipes aren't just food. They're your intellectual property. They're your family's legacy. They're your power. See you in the next story. Getting your recipes stolen doesn't make you a victim. Fighting back makes you unstoppable.